Ah,
Do it. Oh, sorry, it broke out.
Welcome to Canhammer.
Sorry, I had my mic went. I think we just went down for a second. I didn't hear anything you said, Scurry. Sorry.
I said, the dark kin.
Good evening and welcome to Canhammer, your stop for 40K from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 94. It's a 40K show about the top 10 primary faction books. So we're going to rate them. It's the end of the year. We're just going to rate them on what we feel the current meta is and what's the best and what isn't the best. And so stay tuned. We also have a Pimp My List. We're going to be pimping Evan's Tau list for the LVO. As usual, I am at Canhammer Chris on Twitter and Canhammer on Chris on Instagram. I am joined by my co-host, Mr.
Logan. That's at OnePlusLogan on Twitter.
And we have a special guest from Barrie, Ontario, Mr.
Scary, welcome to Canhammer.
How's it going, man? It's good to have you back.
Going fantastic, sir. I'm always delighted to spend a couple of hours with like-minded individuals in this great hobby of ours.
Amen. Cheers with apparently water.
That works.
Okay, so our website is oneplusarmor.com and canhammer.com for more information on our YouTube channel and more. This is our bi-weekly radio talk show all about the Warhammer hobby, our GW-based hobby. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into our hobby progress since the last time that we've recorded. So we'll start with you, Scary, as the guest. What are you working on? What kind of hobby progress?
So much, sir. So since the last time we worked on, I've been touching on a lot of ongoing projects. So I did a lot of work on my Kabalite Warriors. I have about 30 Kabalite Warriors that I'm getting from a basic 3 colors and a wash to highlighted. So that's been my main progress.
I'd assume by now that you'd have enough. How many years of Dark Eldar and you don't have enough?
Well, I've only ever used about 20 of them at any one point in time. Because I only ever run 4 squads worth of Kabalite Warriors, and I usually run 5-man squads.
Yeah.
So I just finished up all 30 of them now to a point where I can run 6 squads of 5. Being that I'm playing more ITC style missions, that's 1850. I decided to run an army with about 22 skimmers in it, and I needed all the Kabalite Warriors I could get my hands on.
So you say 22 skimmers. Are you talking just a mix of Raiders, Ravagers, or are you going all out?
Raiders, Venoms, Ravagers. That's not including Scourge or Jet Bikes for 1850. I put 40 kill points on the table. It's pretty intense. But all in all, played a couple of really fun games against my worst matchup, which is Riptide Wing, just to make sure that I'm practicing against my worst possible matchup to get the most out of the army itself when I do face them in a tournament.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So how did they go? How did the games against the Riptide Wing go?
So if I have second turn, it's a lot harder than if I have first turn.
Yep.
100%. But what I have found is I can reliably kill 2.5 Riptides on the first turn if I go first and they let me have stuff in range, which really helps. Now, granted, I've only been playing Riptide Wings that have 3 Riptides in them. I haven't played a 5 Riptide Wing army. And it's really the Ghost Keels that then do a lot of the damage later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what I've found is I can cripple an army in 3 or 4 turns, but if it goes to turn 6 or 7, my army does not have the staying power. So I have to really play to the mission and get as many points as possible early on, and then just sacrifice the rest of my army for the rest of the game. Board control and Maelstrom is really good with my army, but any sort of kill point mission is super tough for me. So,
have you tried null deploying at all and deep striking all your skimmers?
That's my next iteration of the list runs a Scalpel Squadron.
Okay.
And a Sword and Board Wraith Knight for tournament play. So I'm not going
Nice.
Straight up Dark Eldar, but I'm running like an autark jet bikes Wraith Knight, and I still fit in like 14 Dark Eldar skimmers or something.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, no, it's combination of that, jet bikes, and the Scourge, which have been really, really useful with the heat lances. Especially when you get that infiltrate warlord trait. It really helps get those
get everything in range.
Rank 6 AP1 guns in range of Riptides and stuff.
Because all your skimmers have deep strike, correct?
Yeah. All the skimmers have deep strike, so I could potentially deep strike everything if I wanted to. But I normally find that you don't have to because 12-inch move plus 36-inch range on a board, usually gives you, unless it's like a hammer and anvil.
Yeah.
But at that point, if they're playing hammer and anvil, like they need to be moving out, or you just stay out of range anyway.
That's true. It's true. Because I was just like looking out because I have a skimmer spam old third ed army in my thing. I was thinking about getting it out to attempt to deal with the Tau, and that's the one thing I was looking at is intentionally going second with the Scalpel Squadron, deep striking them in, and then bringing everything in deep strike. So that way, when he intercepts, he can't. What's the one where you shoot twice? Not ripple fire. The other one. Yeah, he can't hailfire you. So he has to either make the choice to like kill 10 raiders or only kill 5 if he has the 5, and then you would just have all your blasters would now be in range, which is the big one for me.
Yeah, blasters aren't really as good as the poison, to be honest.
That could be true too.
Blasters are good, but you'd be better off running haywire grenades just in case you run into a knight army.
True. I just thought with the AP2 strength 6. And then the extra like 10 shots, it's like one extra Riptide gone. Yeah,
no, it definitely be good if you can bring them all on at the same turn and they all drop down. Like if you were to do that, you'd probably be then like really focusing on Trueborn that have multiple blasters in per unit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they can have 4 blasters, and then if you really want to go balls out, you can kind of use blast pistols as well, if that's really the way you want to go to max.
Well, they're only what 6-inch range or 8-inch the pistols?
Well, they're 12-inch range.
They're still 12. Okay, so they're not the ones I was thinking of, but yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. That's what I was thinking about. It would lower the model count a little bit as well.
I think that helps too with the change to toe and cover going away entirely for monsters creatures. I think the more low AP you can stack, I think it'll be really beneficial moving forward because you're like right now I'm just gonna park my Riptides in a ruin, especially if there's night fight. Like you can drop. You need to do 18 wounds with the blasters for me to lose a single Riptide at that point. So you're better off 15 wounds, I should say. You're almost better off just going for weight of fire with the 2+.
Yeah, the Venoms are usually what my go-to for Riptides, because they'll pour so much lead in, they're gonna fail those 2-ups eventually.
Yeah.
That's usually how I go. So yeah, I only own 5 Venoms and like 6 Raiders, so I try and fit them. Well, it's not as bad as it could be, and if I was really min-maxing Venoms and Raiders, I could fit in, twice as many, but. Using a real Space Raiders detachment twice over.
Yeah. What does the Space Raiders do? What does that one give again?
It gives you 6 fast attack choices. So you could just run Venoms and Raiders as individual units.
Okay, but you lose the OBSEC on them, which would worry me.
Yeah. The OBSEC, that's the only downfall would be you'd lose OBSEC.
Which is the most important thing.
Right? That's the only reason why I do not run the real Space Raiders detachment on a regular basis is because you lose OBSEC. And that's huge.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. And then on the other side of hobby progress, I've been doing a lot of terrain building lately. I've just been, not only for the Barry Bash, which we'll talk about later, but also, just for my own collection to kind of mix things up a little bit and get a whole bunch of these stuff that I just had lying around kind of built up and primed and just on a table.
Yeah.
So I've got a game set up for tonight, and it's like a nice little cityscape that I put together.
Nice.
So I've even done things like some walkways and some raised areas, and like a couple of bigger towers, things like that just add height and depth to the game.
Mm-hmm. So when you guys play up in Barry, do you measure like on an angle up things, or do you do it all linear, like flat?
It's on an angle like it should be.
Okay, I agree. I think that's what the fact said, the new one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll go on. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. The only thing we don't measure on an angle is usually like skimmer movement and stuff like that, because it's, but I guess now technically you're supposed to do it unless you go over it.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
That was the clarification in the FAQ, which is good.
Yeah.
It is good.
So move on. You, Logan. You do anything new?
Amazingly, yes. I've actually had time to hobby, which is great. So I've finished off some terrain, been doing up the rest of my Munitorum armored container caches. I rebased some of my Tau to get rid of all the old crappy bases I had. And, oh boy, let me tell you, my basing game has come a long way in the past 2 years. So I'm really happy with that. I did a whole bunch.
Way better. It looks a million times better.
Yeah, I'll put a picture up on Twitter later on. So yeah, did that. Did a bunch of paint touch-ups. I've been working on a new army to be focusing on in 2017, possibly, depending on how things go. So I've been painting up some characters for that, which has been really nice because I haven't been in a rush, so I've actually been able to take my time on them. So I've been learning how to do all sorts of fun stuff, like glazing and using different types of varnish for different parts of models, for glossy glow effects versus matte finishes and whatnot. So it's been a really good time learning how to hobby.
Right on.
What about you?
So I actually organized my paints, which sounds kind of nerdy, but you can see them there.
Oh, nice.
But
Something that's important.
it's important because what happened is I was like trying to inventory what paints I needed because I'm starting I'm still working on that big demon project. I need to order paint. So I was like, well, I got to inventory these bad boys to check out what I need. And I went through and I was like, I found 5 Abaddon blacks that were all half empty. And I found like just so many, just like half used Delvin muds and stuff. So I started mixing paints back together. One of the things is I actually went through 4 pots of Lamian media. And so that sounds kind of weird, but when I was mixing the paints, they were kind of thick in the bottom.
Yeah.
And so I would add the medium to it and shake them up really, really well, let them sit overnight, and then shake them again and then mix them together. And any of my dried paints, I was able to rejuvenate them by just adding a little bit of that Lamian media to them. And it does a wonderful job. It's probably the best thing. Like I think it almost doubles what I get out of a pot of paint, because I used to always kind of get like a sludge that I throw away, but now I consistently, as I use them, as they get drier and thicker, and I dislike them, I always add a little bit into the main pot and shake it up and let it sit overnight, and then I'll use it the next day. I still do add water on my palette, but I just found that was a great way to... You ever notice that, like, sometimes when you open the GW, they'll be, like, really thick, like, stuck to the lid?
Oh, yeah. I got tons of
This
paints
just
like
kind
that.
of makes it more like it freshens it up, and it's really nice. And some of the whites, which are really, really bad, like, I'm trying to think of... there's White Scar White, and then there's another one that's really
That's the
bad.
one
They
I've
kind of
got here.
split.
It's terrible. Ceramite white. This stuff
Ceramite white's the other
just
one.
turns into a brick after a week.
Yeah, so you add a little bit of Lamian media to that before it gets too far gone and shake the hell out of it, and it actually makes a big difference.
I'm going to do that.
So it's well worth it. How I ended up with like 5 pots of Lamian media was a little bit crazy. I just kept like winning tournaments and be like, oh, this looks kind of neat. Like, because you always need like $5 to throw in. Like,
Yeah.
I get a box, I have an extra 5. So I'd grab like something that I knew I needed, but I didn't really, and I just keep grabbing that, and then eventually worked out pretty well. And I mean, actually, one of my oranges right here was really in rough shape, and now it's like brand new again. So
That's awesome.
that I've been working on my resin bases, so I have just thousands of these things I got to go through. So I have another batch of them that I painted up in the last week. I've been sorting through my terrain, so this is good advice for TOs, or if you're thinking about running a tournament. What I used to do is I would just put all my terrain in big bins, and I would bring them to the event hall. And that's fine when you only have 5 or 6 tables to run an event with. But when you start getting up to 10, 15, 20 tables, it doesn't work, because you actually don't know. I'm like, well, I think I can do like 16. I don't know if I can do 21. And you kind of start getting a little bit like you're not quite sure if maybe some of your tables last time had too much terrain or too little. So what I did is I went out and I purchased 20 individual bins. They're like smaller than the ones I store them in. And so I'm sorting all my terrain by table. So now it's like, if somebody calls me up and says, yo, can you bring 2 tables? I got 2 bins with 2 tables. And they have matching fat mats to the bin that matches the terrain. And they're numbered. So it'll be like, this is table 1. This goes with fat mat 1. So it'll be a lot easier for setting up too. I can just be like, Logan, this is table 1. This is the mat 1. And he can just set it up.
Yeah.
and there's a picture of what the table should be set up with.
Yeah.
That takes a crazy amount of time because you have to sort all your terrain, you have to get the bins, you have to take the picture, set them up, you have to create a Word document, but it's definitely worth it if you're running multiple events. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
100%. Being a TO, I understand.
Yeah, like it's like every TO you talk to is like, yeah, once you start getting too big, you got to do per table bins. And I've also been just working on my demons. So I'm not sure if we talked about last week, but I got my blue horrors. I'm almost done them. And I built 20 pink horrors. I built 10 seekers of Slanesh. And I'm just trying to get my summoning pool to be as big as possible so I can get the full workload out of my demon army, because you basically need 2 armies. So I'm going to be painting these demons for the next year. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's like 300 models. So
A lot of demons, that's for sure.
oh, it's crazy.
Be well worth it once you make somebody shoot themselves in the middle of a game.
Well, that's the crazy part is with that we did the Magnus review last week. And so one of my new lists has like a Screamer star with 20 pink horrors in it, so that when I deep strike it, if I screw up my Grimoire and you intercept me, you kill the 20 pink horrors, and then I get 80 blue horrors in your grill that can then assault you. But I'm like, how the hell do you get 80 blue horrors right now? Like, it's the craziest thing in the world. So I only have 30. But it's like, I eventually want to get up to 80 just so that I can literally do that. Have like nothing scarier than 80 blue horrors in your grill that can charge you.
Yeah, you'd be spending all game there. Especially with the Screamers to back it up, to block hit and run and whatnot.
Would they be able to charge because they technically didn't deep strike and stuff like that?
Exactly. They are a completely separate unit according to the rules.
And the awesome thing is that, so the way that I see it now is what happens is I drop that unit in. If I get my Grimoire off, the Tau guy usually doesn't intercept because it's not worth it. But if if I fail the Grimoire, he's going to intercept. He's going to kill basically most of that unit. Well, now I feel that it gives me a further kind of deterrent, so that maybe the Tau guy won't intercept me because he doesn't want to be charged by 80 blue horrors when he blows that unit up. So yes, he kills my Death Star, gets like 10 kill points, but I can still shove 80 blue, or was it? Yeah, it was 80 blue horrors in his grill, and then I pretty much can maybe limp out the rest of the game and pull out a tie or something.
100%.
So I've been putting just a lot of thought into that, and it's going okay. So I guess we'll move on to news and new releases. I'll start with the AOS one, because there's only 2 things to announce. One of them is kind of both news, is Warhammer TV went live today. I don't know if you guys had time to check that out.
Nope.
So not the actual feed, but I saw the pictures of them setting it all up. It looked pretty legit.
Yeah, it's super high quality. They have they're doing a battle. They have one screen with the table, and then they have 2 close-up cams. It's something that you would expect from a real company, because 3 cameras and probably enough bandwidth to handle it. And it's really fantastic. I'm happy that they're doing that, and I guess more's to come. It just went live today, so I don't have more than that. And the other AOS news is Spire of Dawn was released, and so I'd like to get your guys' take on this. Is they basically took the Island of Blood set from the 8th edition starter, and they reboxed it on round bases as the new figures. Well, they're the old figures, but it's a new set called Spire of Dawn.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of that?
They need to probably get some of the... Well, there's 2 things that it does. Is it about the same price as the old one?
It's $100 Canadian.
So it's cheaper than it was? More expensive?
I think at first it was around $100, and then it went up in price later.
Does it have terrain in it, or no? Just the models?
No, just the figures. Has 40 Skaven, a bunch of characters, 2 Rat Ogres, 10 Swordmasters of Hoeth, 10 Seaguard.
And a C1. I can see it. I can see them. I kind of like it. They might have just had a lot of stock, and they just needed to repackage it all after the fantasy to Age of Sigmar stuff.
It's also cheap way to get 2 armies.
Yeah, $100 is still really good for the value that you get out of that. So.
Yeah, I'd say in 2016 dollars, that's still a bargain. So.
Well, you and your buddy, you each chip in $100 or whatever, and you split it with your buddy, right? One guy gets all the Skaven, one guy gets all the High Elves, and you're good to go for some Age of Sigmar,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do the points breakdown because I didn't have that much time this week. Normally, that's what I'd like to do, but it's not as maybe points efficient as some of the other starter sets. But it's still the good starts to an army, especially if you're a Chaos player. And the Skaven are now in the Chaos faction, of course.
Yep.
So you can you get your 2 battle line units for relatively cheap, $50, and if you split it. Cool. So Logan, 40K news.
40K news. So the big thing that's come out is the Imperial Agents book. It is not what people were hoping for. There are no good updated rules for things. Apparently the Assassins have new rules. I have not been hands-on with this, mind you. And by new rules, I just mean clarification on wording. So I do not know what necessarily that entails, but hopefully there's going to be some confusion cleared up around some of the wording on stuff like the Calexis, because it's really the only one we see. That said, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. For that, I think it's exactly what you just said. It's just a wording on the fact that the Calexis, like, it won't work inside of a transport and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So
I think that's the only main change.
Okay, so there may still be some questions then. But the big changes for this is that every single thing in the book is now a unique faction, which some of it already was. But what's hilarious is you can buy transports now that nobody can ever use, which is kind of odd.
Well, can start the game in.
No one can start the game in it. But it's a flyer, right? So you can only embark again if it's hovering. But anyway, the bigger news for it is that servo skulls are no longer a thing. They've been pulled from Inquisition, which is okay.
Huge.
Yeah, it's a huge change. Yeah, it's one less thing I got to worry about, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be a big shift. So I know a lot of people are already looking at putting stuff like what are the Eldar
Mandrakes.
sniper dudes?
Mandrakes.
Yep, Mandrakes, Rangers, stuff like that. Like, I've got Kroot back on my list. I added them a while ago, but they're even better now. What's that?
That I use Mandrakes for that, 100%.
Yeah, Mandrakes are fantastic for it. The other change in this is Saint Celestine has been removed entirely.
Yeah.
So that is a shame.
Yeah, that's too bad because she could have been removed for many reasons, but like she was kind of the one exploitable character out of that book that a lot of people would throw into other lists to gain hit and run. It's just kind of like, part of me is like, well, that's sad, but part of me is like, well, maybe if they updated the book, which apparently they didn't, but it would be a lot better. But it just seems like GW's starting to remove some of the stuff that's exploitable. And so that's how I kind of like, the serval skulls are gone. They were super exploited. Celestine's gone. She was super exploited. And then I think they're kind of trying to move in that direction. They also removed one Inquisitor from the detachment, so you can only take one Inquisitor now.
Yes, I believe that's the case. I think it's 1 to 2.
Ooh, I read 1, but I could be wrong because of course we don't have the real book till this Friday.
So the big change is for the Inquisitorial detachment, you now must take a unit of Acolytes as well.
That's good too.
So it's not just 34 points for your... Well, I mean, that said, there's no reason to take them now, right? You're not getting servo skulls out of it. So unless you're doing like crazy psychotrope rad grenade stacking, I don't think you're going to see Inquisitors at all anymore.
There's an Inquisitorial faction at the ITC.
That's true. That's true. Maybe we'll see it just for that purpose.
I think though it's pretty cool. There's some really cool things like an Inquisitor can be your can take a warlord trait even though it's not your warlord thing, which can be you can I can see some gamey stuff with that / the book that lets you scout and whatnot and things like that too. So
yeah, I guess there are still some opportunities for it.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll still see it. I definitely think you'll still see them. I just think that their role is no longer as like idiot proof. I hate to use that word, but it was just too easy to put the Inquisitor with the skulls. Now it's like if you're running a Death Star, he's still totally worth it with the grenades, with the Book of Scout, as Scary said. They're still quite good. Now you need the Acolytes, so you have to pay tax, which is good. It's like you're seeing it a lot more with more modern formations. They all have more tax in them, which is a good thing, right? Like the best formations in the game, if you go back a few episodes, listen to our Top Formations podcast, they're usually ones with like huge abilities and no tax. And so I'm kind of cool with this, right? Like, make me take an acolyte unit, just so that like I only take 3 guys. It's like 30 points, but it's still a kill point and it's something else, right?
Yep.
So one thing on that is the new Sisters Canonist came out. Viridian is her name.
Yep.
She's pretty cool. Now, she's easy to kill. She's a standard Canonist stat line, toughness 3, all that good stuff. She has a power sword, bolt pistol, stubborn, all the standard Canonist old standard book. But she has a special rule, which I kind of like. And it's basically all friendly units with the Adeptus Sororitas faction that are within 12 inches of her have precision shots and precision strike special rules.
That's pretty cool. It's like murder that flamer.
It terrifies my demons, actually, man. It's great that they said only sisters can use this.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like,
Well,
if it was like friendly model, then you'd see a lot more see her in a lot more lists.
what's the exact wording? Is it say friendly
units with the Adeptus Sororitas?
Yeah, so
faction?
you can still stack that because she's Adeptus Sororitas faction. If she joins a unit, that unit counts as being that faction as well. So you toss her on in your Death Star, the entire Death Star now has precision strikes, precision shots.
Yeah, but it's not like it's going to work in a bubble where.
Oh no, you won't get the bubble from it, no. But you can still stack that on the unit, which is nice.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
With some Centurions or some Devastators or things like that, if you really want to kill like specific models out of a unit. Of course, you have to still get through like lookout stairs and stuff if you want to kill characters, but that's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Well, it's like you're thinking that when you like my Zinch Herald there with the Grimoire, he's usually got like a 4-up. He's toughness 4. If I fail like one lookout stair, he's gone. Usually to strength 8. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for other Death Stars, right? If you're picking off the for like the Dark Angels one, you're picking off the hit and run banner. You're picking off the stuff that gives the unit hit and run is huge, and the apothecary, because at best case he's got a 4+ lookout, sir, right? So that's actually really strong in that case.
Oh yeah, and if you can get something at a high initiative to take out those like a power sword or something at the high initiative, kills those, as you said, those guys, and then the rest of your models striking in, they don't get their feel no pain. It could be a big deal.
Yeah. That's it. You still have to be in base contact with it, but still good.
Well, even the shooting, you
shooting
could see
is the big
Centurion
one there.
stars now, a bit coming back. Or I couldn't think of too much else that would really benefit from that than a Cent Star. But what's the shooting Imperial Death Star that we have nowadays?
Not much.
Not really.
Nothing
Like a
really else
Ravenwing
you could
Command
join.
Squad or something, like a big Ravenwing Command Squad. I don't know, but that's just not really that great.
It's tough to have her on foot and work with that. I think it would be a Cent Star would probably be the best approach, and yeah, I mean that always has its drawbacks too, but it'd be a cool addition, right? You stack that with your ignores cover and you're teleporting around. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, convert the Cents to be like girls. That'd be pretty funny.
There you go. I'm sure there's some third-party models.
We'll just get heads, get the head swaps, just do a little bit of green
just
stuff.
model boobs on Centurions.
You wouldn't even need to, because they literally have missiles coming out of their chests, right? Don't they?
That's true. That's true. They have machine gun jumblies.
One in the bottom one and leave one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's it for what I got there.
Yep, I think that's everything that's been going on.
So that's it for the news. So next we're going to go on to Event Spotlight. We'll hand it off to the TO of PNP 6.
Cool. Power Fist and Psyker 6 this weekend. 16 players. We only have 14 signed up. If you are interested in playing, it is $20. 3 rounds at Multizone in Gatineau, which is just across the bridge from Ottawa. It's about a 10-minute drive, so it's nice and close by. It's 3 rounds, ITC missions, full ITC FAQ, so the new GW FAQ is not being used because the vote will not be done by the time this happens. Speaking of which, the ITC vote is starting on Friday, so be sure to vote in that. But yeah, if you're interested, come on out. $20, Multizone in Gatineau on Saturday, December 17th.
And then we have the TO of the Berry Bash.
It is the first major ITC event of the 2017 season. It's a 60-player, 2-round, 1,850, 5 round.
There we go.
To actually make it a GT over the course of 2 days. On the last weekend of February 2017. The way to register is going to the Best Coast Pairings app and paying on the app to register and safeguard your spot. 10% of the tournament is filled already, So, well, more than 10% actually. We only have 40 some spots left. So if you're interested in going, sign up as soon as possible. It's just $60 for 2 days. And we're going to have t-shirts, prizes, just for signing up. It's going to be a really fun, major event. I'm very excited for the level of competition it's going to be at the event this year.
Very
So
cool.
I highly recommend it. Check out the Facebook page too.
Excellent. We'll have a link to that in the show notes when this is on YouTube.
Yeah, you can go on ITC and just check out the events. We have a lot of Canadian events next year, big
Tons.
ones. And then the last one is we announced last week the Canhammer team tournament is expanding to be 20 teams, which would be 80 players. We did sell out again, so we have 80 players paid and 4 on the waiting list that are hoping for a dropout. So if your team's getting wobbly and going to drop out, somebody's going to take your spot. And that's that. So that's in Cambridge, Ontario. You can go to canhammer.com and click on the Canhammer Team Tournament tab for more information on that. It's an ETC style 4-man event, but of course you'll be on the waiting list and you have to prepay to get on the waiting list. The other event that I am running is the Canhammer Sigmar Holiday Age of Sigmar party or something like that. You go to canhammer.com, click on the tab, and it'll bring you to the information on that. It is a 3-round Age of Sigmar 2,000-point tournament in Forbes Hobbies in Cambridge, Ontario. Man, I live in Cornwall and I'm running 2 events in Cambridge, or helping run 2 events in Cambridge, and that's insane. But it's going on.
For the people who don't know, that's about a 6.5 hour drive.
Closer to 5 the way I drive, but my minivan.
Right. Dedication.
Yeah, it's very dedicated. No, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's meant to be more of a low key, kind of just for fun. $15. Let's get some Sigmar going and get some rankings points. So we're hoping to get to like 10 people. I think we have like 8 that are coming right now. So it's definitely not too late to sign up for that one. So with that, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk about our top 10 primary factions.
And we're back!
Yeah, so we're going to talk about our top 10 factions at the end of 2016. So this is how we interpret the current meta. It's what we think is number 10 all the way up to number 1. Number 1 being the one that we... Like, I took it as more like I am the most scared to play against that, or I have the most trouble playing against that. That's kind of how I ranked them. I'm not sure if you guys... What was your thinking when you made your lists?
I was trying to go for a bit of a more holistic approach, perhaps. That said, I mean, given what I play on a regular basis, I think it lines up pretty well with probably how the meta is overall.
The thing that I decided to take a look at when making my list is twofold. Number one, using a generalization of the ITC rankings, because after all, the rankings are what is the most data put in one place. And number two, I'm looking at armies that I feel have the most tools available to deal with any mission parameter at a tournament.
That sounds really good. I did that a little bit just in the fact of like these are the lists that like I don't feel that anything on my list is like crazy that people be like, oh, he puts sisters first, but it's like it's because demons sisters screw demons up. That's not true.
That's not a thing.
But I was kind of like just I didn't want to be super like these are what always win. I wanted to kind of have a little bit of like bring a personal flair to it. So we'll get started at do you guys have any honorable mentions, ones that didn't make your list but you want to mention anyway?
I do. Scar, you want to go first?
I'll go first. I do want to honorable mention the Dark Eldar, because I feel that they have the tools, firepower to deal with a lot of different armies. But you do require somebody with some stones to go behind the army to work.
See, I thought you were going to put them on your list for sure.
Number one, Dark Eldar.
As much as I'd love to put them on the list, maybe like 10 in terms of like powerful armies, the only reason being is the list itself requires a person that's worth their salt behind the army to make it work.
Agree.
Interesting. So that theme will come up again, I think.
So Logan, your honorable mentions?
My honorable mention is Orcs, because Stampa. That's all I have in my notes is because Stampa.
You mean 300 point Stampa?
Yeah, I mean the cheap Stampa, not the normal Stampa.
And my honorable mention is going to be Necrons, because they probably should be on my list.
Interesting.
But they're not. Okay, so we'll start with number 10. I'll give it to Scary. He's the guest.
Well, thank you, sir. Number 10 goes to Blood Angels for me. I feel like the army has a lot of tools, especially with the new Angels Blade book or supplement that came out that had a lot of formations that are very strong. I feel that in the hands of a good player, I'm thinking of Geoff, who took him down to Warzone Atlanta with the Golden Host and a bunch of Dreadnoughts in Lucius Pods, and placed top 10, I believe, in the Warzone Atlanta with Blood Angels.
Wow, great job, Jeff.
Yeah, it was very well done, and I feel that deserves... I feel like they have the tools with some of those formations to really compete in this meta.
Very cool.
Fair enough. Your number 10 there, Logan?
My number 10 is Dark Eldar.
You put it on the list?
Yeah.
Did you put that to suck up the Scary? You did.
No, I didn't. I figured you would do that. But no, my reasoning behind it was actually a couple of things we talked about before the show. Is you just have a ridiculous amount of OBSEC that is super fast moving. You've got access to really good formations with Corpse Thief Claw and the other thing we were talking about, Scalpel Squadron. And because of that, they make a pretty solid like allied book that comes in. But for a primary detachment, I think they do have a fair number of options. And like you said, with enough finesse, you can make them work. And there are a couple players in ITC that really point that out as well with their results. You're one of them, and what's her name? Can never remember. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about though. Anyway,
I message her on Messenger all the time. We talk a lot about Dark Eldar lists and concept.
What's her name?
I'm trying to think. If you, I don't have it on the top of my head.
Is it Dark Eldar Christie?
Yeah.
It's not who I'm thinking of, but in any case, I mean, I'll find it right now. But that's my number 10. I think they are definitely viable because of that, but definitely towards the low end. And I'm thinking of Willow Rider.
Willow Rider. Cool.
Yeah.
So my number 10 is kind of a weird one. I put the Eldar Corsairs. I consider them their own faction. They are pretty low on my list. The reason is they're a very powerful book. If you took a pure Corsair faction, you're a force to reckon with. They do have a lot of tax built in. A lot of their formations are taxed. Their jet bikes are just a little bit more points cost than the Eldar ones. Their warp hunters are a little bit better, but I definitely rate them as a top 10 faction. If you want to go pure GW, they don't belong, but I definitely rate them. And those slight differences make them a lot weaker than their standard Eldar brethren, in my opinion. So number 9, Scary.
I'm gonna go with Space Wolves.
Ooh.
As a standalone book, I feel that they're top 10, but not like the top of the top. I feel that they shoehorned into a lot of lists to kind of help with Super Friends and whatnot. But as a faction in themselves, although they have a lot of the tools available, mostly Thunderwolves and whatnot, there's a lot of tools out there that counter them quite hard, like quite heavily. Even Dark Eldar is a good counter to Thunderwolves, just for the sheer amount of poison. But I feel that they do have the tools and the speed and mobility and the Wolven and things like that. There's some strong builds in the meta, but I feel like they're not at the top of my list.
All right.
Like a good reason. Logan?
Space Wolves.
Number 9. Did you really?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. And it's for all the same reasons. As a standalone army, they've got some pretty cool stuff, like you said. I mean, you can just spam Thunderwolves. Wolfentide is great, especially with a couple Land Raiders. But there's a lot of stuff that just deals with them outright, right? Like they're definitely more of a detachment you're throwing in to get your Thunderwolf guys, and then you're building stuff around that, or your 1 or 2 units of Wolfen and drop pods. Stuff like that as a full primary. It's not super strong, but it's got some really awesome stuff that can definitely lay waste to lists that aren't prepared for it.
This is the last time I'm going to be really weird with my number 9. I went with Chaos Renegades. I've been seeing way too much of their artillery, way too much of their zombies, way too much coming on. Now, I've played against it, I want to say 4 or 5 times in tournaments now, and haven't found it too difficult to deal with. But it's one of those things where it is really powerful, and in the right hands is definitely a top 10 material. So I'm going to go with the Chaos Renegades, mainly towards the zombies and artillery side of that faction. But
cool.
So number 8, Scary.
I went with Corsairs. I feel they have a lot of the tools that make them very good in a competitive sense. Yes, they're not top of the list because of the fact that they are limited in their options for competitive play in relation to their Eldar brethren. But powerful warp hunters, access to the Hornet, access to a great flyer, as well as access to scouting jet bikes that can take dark lances, and being able to move after shooting, is like battle focus. I think that is super powerful in the right hands, and I feel that I'm actually building a Corsair army that it'll be a force to be reckoned with on the table.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep, they're definitely up there.
Excellent.
Logan, number 8?
Number 8 for me is Necrons. So I put a little more weight on them than perhaps you do. I think with some of the cool stuff they've got between Lich Star, Pylon Star, or even just super heavy like AV-13 Decurion, they've got a hell of a lot of staying power. They definitely have their drawbacks, but they are a very easy army to pick up and do relatively well with. I don't think they're necessarily like GT or major winning, except in the hands of a very small handful of people like Baxter and maybe 1 or 2 others. But for what it is, they're absolutely a top 10 on my list. But I think they do take a lot more finesse than people may imagine if they just play against them in a casual setting.
Yeah, I find the Necrons just a tough one because, as you said, they just don't seem to podium. They seem to be lackluster. Like they're not an easy game, but they're not like they're hard games, but they just don't seem to like really reach out and just destroy you. Right? It's kind of a
Yeah, like the only time I can think of where I've played against Necrons and lost, like it was against a good player, but I'd like to think it was mostly the dice. Like it was 4 hail firing Riptides and a Storm Surge, and I did 1 wound to a Wraith. Like that's not how math works. So it's stuff like that where if that happens, you're just gonna get steamrolled because you're gonna have however many 12 Wraiths and a whole bunch of destroyers backing them up, killing all your mans right away. But it's not the kind of, if you don't account for that, like I didn't, you get sort of screwed on it. But it can be pretty hit or miss. So I think a lot of the better builds are the ones that are perhaps more based around durability and mobility. Like we've seen Tombblade spam lists that have done quite well. They're definitely big in ETC. Is the Tombblade spam and maybe a Lich Star. But yeah, as you said, they don't quite make it to that top 3 or best general, best Xenos kind of thing.
I have to agree putting them on the list. The fact that they can survive Riptides and Storm Surge, definitely. The fact that the possibility is there makes them part of that list.
Yeah, fair.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm just a jerk towards the Necron players. I'll take it. So my number 8 is Imperial Knights. And I'm going to put in the Chaos Renegade Knights. Are worse than Imperial Knights, but they're about the same in power level, in my opinion. But unless you're playing Chaos, I don't think you'd ever take a Chaos Knights, or if you're playing something like Necrons, maybe. But they're just great. It's a low model count army. It's very straightforward. They're very rock, paper, scissors, but they can deal with a lot of things. So, like, they can deal with Tau. Like, if you go first with Knights, you can almost guarantee, if you have enough of them, the Tau player's gone, because you're going to touch him, right? And then he's dead. They're great against things like demons. They're great against anything that's, like, spammy. They can just go directly into it. I think they're just a fantastic choice. You can give them OBSEC, one of the best special rules in the game. You can also just use them as a really nice ally. Like, 1 Knight goes really well in a lot of armies. 3 Knights makes a nice army, but you can just run 5 of them, and it's actually, like, you're not going to win all your games, but you're going to win, like, 60-70%. Like, I think it's one of those armies where they win more than 50% in average hands. So
interestingly, that's so a spoiler. Knights actually aren't on my list, and the only reason they aren't is because of the reasons you said. They're a spoiler army. It's not, I don't think, anyway. I mean, there's definitely data to prove me wrong, but I don't think that on a regular basis Knights are an army that's going to hit on their own merit a top 8 or a top 16.
Jeff Brown will disagree with you, man.
He is I think the only person who will disagree with me on that, and has proven it otherwise, though.
I don't know. Jamie does consistently well with his Knights compared to other armies.
But I'm talking like GT major level, not necessarily smaller events, right? Because if you take a look at, I'm trying to think, like even LVO this year, I don't think there were any pure Knights players in top 16. Like they were.
That's hard. Like the LVO is like really hard to get. Well,
it's huge. But right? at Adepticon, there was no one. I don't think there were any Knights in even like top 30. For Bloodbath, there was none. There were no Knights even in the top 50%. CHTT, I don't think there are any Knight players. Period. Actually, at that. But they are a good army. They can do very well, but I don't think they are necessarily consistent enough to be up there.
Scary.
It's funny because I didn't put it on my list either. I didn't even think of Knights until you said Knights at all. So I just find that funny, is all. Just thought I'd make a note there.
Yeah.
It could be too. I also have an ETC perspective, which is a bit different. So, like, from an ETC list building point of view, 1 to 2 Knight players is almost a given, and they are an answer for lots of books.
They are. They do have some good stuff in them.
Armor 13, man. Armor 13 spoils a lot of Eldar, spoils a lot of other things too. So
true enough.
So that's my number 8. We'll move on to number 7, Scary.
So my number 7 was Renegades. Just because those zombies, like a sea of zombies with the shoot into combat artillery, can be very tough for people to deal with.
Mhm.
They have crazy board control with the amount of bodies they put on the table, and just a really good damage output with the amount of bombardments they can put out there without really caring about their own casualties.
Yep.
Which makes it very tough to maneuver and to get away from it. And if they play like Hammer and Anvil, you're in for a world of hurt from all those guns, and even combat won't help you. So I feel like there's a lot of things in that list that make them very, very strong as well.
Yeah, I agree. They're just so good, and that much artillery can just spoil people as well. So, and the thing too is it's straightforward. You put them in a corner, you can shell, and then the zombies come in, right?
Yep.
I have to run, grab my charge. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Well, we don't need him to go Logan's number 7.
All right. So actually, I'll point out as well, I don't have any Forge World lists on here, and that's not intentional. That's just I didn't think about Forge World books. So
It was tough. I didn't want to put them on either. Part of me felt that was like a spoiler, but we've been playing so much ITC lately that like Chaos Renegades are just you have to plan for them. I have to plan for them, and I have to plan for Corsairs.
Yeah, I mean, I think this coming weekend is actually gonna be the first time I'll have played against Renegades, and that's assuming I get that matchup. But we only have one Renegades player here in Ottawa, so we'll see.
He's new, right?
He's new. He's new as well. Yeah. Anyway, my number 7. This may be a little premature, but given what we've got and given the other history of this, is Chaos Space Marines, and I say that for a few reasons. One is the Cabal is enough friggin' points that it's a primary faction. And really, that's all that needs to be said, is the Cabal is a primary faction. But
I
also
thought about that too.
With Magnus in there as well, who is also damn near close enough to be a primary faction, and a lot of the buffs from the new book, I think we're going to start seeing a larger CSM presence. But really, this is based around Cabal being your primary.
Yeah, so you have a really good point there. If you're going, like, you could do it now with the new books. You could take Infiltrating Chosen, you could deep strike Black Legion in turn 1, do tons of damage. That's super hypothetical right now. Magnus is tearing up the board. Like, I agree. Spoiler, they're not on my list either.
Yeah.
Or at all. And it's a lot of it is that just the chaos suffer from some of the old rules and the old point costs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these guys are this high up not because of the new stuff necessarily, other than Magnus. It's really based around the Cabal and Magnus specifically that puts CSM even on this list. The new factions the new Traitor Legions I don't think even touch top 10.
So my number 7 is Mechanicum. So that's a combination. I decided to go faction-wise. That's both books as one. If you were to go those two books individual as separate factions, which I don't think that's fair to categorize them that way, then they are probably both not on the list. But together, they're definitely number 7, just because they get 900 points free and a gazillion special rules.
Very true. Very true.
Super power.
So, Skari, we're on to number 6.
Okay, I put Necrons as my number 6. I feel like they have crazy resiliency, and they're like a tar pit army that will throw a wrench into almost every single opponent they will play. And combine that with being played with a very experienced tournament player at a tournament, they can be a very tough army to deal with. They might not have the craziest damage output, but their resiliency and board control and just some of the gimmicks that they can do make them very versatile. And I'm a huge fan of versatility in tournament play. Hence why number 6.
Okay.
Cool.
No, still, I'm the odd man out this time. Logan, you're number 6.
My number 6 is Dark Angels. Between their Gladius, the Lion's Blade Strike Force, I think it is, and just Ravenwing in general, they are incredibly versatile. With Ravenwing, you've got super durability, a huge damage output, and mobility. And on the Lion's Blade side, you've got a very good demi company, basically, but with a very inexpensive auxiliary requirement to get all of your bonuses. So you can run that, and you can take 2 Imperial Knights on top of it, for example. So I think it's a very, very versatile, very strong list. And, results we've seen back that up, I think.
Yeah, I agree. My number 6 is Space Wolves, and I normally thought them as more of an allied detachment, but with the Wolfen book, you're definitely able to produce a Wolf Star on its own that's totally functional without any Dark Angels allies. The other thing too is the Company of the Black Mane is really, really good now. So those are kind of the only 2 builds, but the Wolfen are terrifying, and you're seeing people with pure Wolfen armies doing quite well. They do suffer against some of the Tau and some of the Eldar because of the shooting, but they're definitely like Death Star spoilers, and they're very good at just kind of, because they even have their own Librarius Conclave. It's not as good, but they have one, right? So they have the tools to make themselves either a fantastically spam Ragnar Blackmane Company of Black Ragnar, whatever, or they could do the Death Star Wolfen list. It's pretty good. Okay, so number 5, Scary.
Okay, for number 5, I picked Demons. I feel like they have a lot of the tools to deal with at a competitive level, and you can play them in a variety of different ways. So you never know what's going to come at you. They can either run Screamers, or summoning, or a combination, or flying monstrous creatures, or in support of a chaos army of some sort. So I think that they have a lot of the tools to deal with any opponent in a variety of different missions, and they're quite resilient, and therefore they don't really have like horrible bad matchups. They just have like they're just a good army in general for tournament play.
All right, I feel you. All right, go to my number 5. Chris, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I've been talking the whole time.
There you go.
So Logan, number 5.
All right, number 5 for me is Admech with War Convocation. Everything you said. It's an army that performs super well. You get like 300, 400 points of free stuff. There is nothing not to love. The only reason I wouldn't rank them higher is they have some extremely hard matchups. But as we've seen, with a good player at the helm, they can definitely overcome those as well. So I think we've said the rest about it already.
So my number 5 is Demons too, by the way.
What's that?
Said what's up? Yes.
Yeah, gotta go Demons. So they're very versatile. They have lots of options. The reason that they're maybe not higher is that they suffer from some kind of random rolls. There's a few things that like if the dice don't go your way, you can just lose, and that's just the way it is. Prime example, and I'm bitter over this as hell. You deep strike in, you fail your Grimoire, 3+ reroll, and you're gone. Like it's almost like a non-game at that point. We played it out just to try and see if you could recover it, but it's rough. And then part of it's my fault by putting too many eggs in the one basket, but there's that aspect of it. There's also the fact that a lot of their really good formations are very rigid. So there's very little flexibility. So your list choice is like this or that. There is no in between. So that's why maybe they aren't higher than that on the list. But I think number 5 is pretty fair for the Demons. So number 4, Scary.
So number 4, I went for Tau. I feel like they're a very, very strong army. Lots of shooting. They have the tools to deal with any army. But the biggest reason they're not in like the top 3 is because they do suffer from some very tough matchups. That if they end up fighting those tough matchups, they get completely slaughtered. So because of that reason, I've decided that they're the 4th.
Right on, Logan. You're 4.
Exactly the same.
You put Tao's 4? You put Tao's 4.
I put Tao's 4. The only thing I'd add to it is one of the other big things about Tau is, I think we said this on the podcast a few times, is they are one of the huge armies you have to plan for when you're designing a list. And it's something I know I sound like a douche every time I say it to people when they ask me for list advice, but my first answer to a lot of these is like, how do you plan on dealing with Tau with this list? You come up
can't.
against
That's the
5
problem.
Riptides, you're just gonna flat out lose with a lot of list design, which is dumb, but it's something you need to account for. And when you can, you're golden.
Fair enough. My number 4 is Dark Angels. It's, as Logan said before, you can do they're a good complement to good Death Star armies. You can do Ravenwing spam list, which a lot of people don't play, but it's fantastic. It's just so many plasma shots. It can kill anything. Take down Kairos, flyer, everything's twin linked, everything's plasma. It's great. You got twin linked reroll cover saves. You got feel no pain, lots of hit and run. They got rending, strength 5 on the charge. Like that Black Knight spam list is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They also can do a battle company that's honestly in a post no skulls, like that Servo Skulls world. I think the Dark Angels battle company just got a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Because White Scars, that scouting was huge, but there were so many skulls it took that kind of away from them. But now that they're gone, I think White Scars battle company just kind of moved even further ahead than maybe the Dark Angel Lion's Blade. But I easily put Lion's Blade as number 2 as terms of battle companies go. So it's definitely they're a really solid book. So we'll move on. Sorry, you want to add something?
No, I didn't even put Dark Angels on my list. I kind of fit them into like Space Marines.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, we don't want to be too restrictive with these lists because it's all opinion, and it's all just bullshit opinion, man. It's all good. Just kidding. So we'll move on to your number 3, Scary.
Number 3, I put Eldar. I feel like they're really powerful, really strong, really fragile. So even though people love the fact that they're a net list, I feel that they do require some finesse to play correctly and play right. And I also feel that people are used to them now. They expect them. So not only are people accustomed to playing against the specific armies, but that they've developed counter tactics and have really kind of learned how to deal with the scat spam, Wraith Knights, jump spiders, etc.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too that some of the newer books have been very anti-Eldar,
Yeah.
like in the way that they function. So Logan, you're number 3?
Eldar.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess the important thing to say here is, I mean, we're talking like top 3 armies, right? Like 3rd place is amazingly good. It's a lot of the same reasons. There's a lot of stuff that's been coming out that deals with it. A lot of the turn 1 charge kind of stuff. Gene Stealer Cult really has the ability to piss in Eldar's cornflakes. And just a few, it's starting to sort of lose its luster a little bit. And to Scari's point, there's a lot of folks who've just gotten used to playing it, and a lot of other builds that are being able to counter it more effectively. But that said, I mean, 3rd place is still outstanding, and really it's only by merit of the fact that if you look at tournament results, Eldar are consistently getting like 2nd or 3rd place, right? Not usually 1st. So
That's true.
That's still an outstandingly good finish.
Cool.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Space Marines. They're I'm assuming they're on your guys' lists higher up, so maybe we'll wait till you guys want to cover them. So I guess we can move on to number 2, Scary.
I put Space Marines in my top 2. And I was actually thinking Lion's Blade as well in Space Marines as like one giant army, mostly because I'm thinking battle company specifically, and I'm talking any kind of battle company.
Yeah.
Because they have an incredible amount of grav or an incredible amount of special weapons, a crazy amount of objectives secured, the transports to go along with it, the free points, and they can supplement it with some great formations, whether it's Skyhammer Annihilation, whether it's any of the Blood Angel ones, whether it's the Scouts, that Scouts like win the game most of the time, like the 10th Company Strike Force. All those things put together in unison, I feel make Space Marines one of the top contenders for any tournament scene.
Fair
You're
enough.
muted again.
So you're number 2 there, Logan?
Space Marines for all the reasons Scary just said. Great versatility. They can deal with just about anything. They've got great formations. Lib Conclave is linchpin in a lot of lists. It makes a lot of lists work, and it helps a lot of lists be even better. Like if you're putting it in War Convo, stuff like that. And yeah, past that, Battle Company is just absolutely amazing. And there's also access to a bunch of other, great but lesser seen now builds like Scent-Star, stuff like that.
Yeah, I hope the Scent-Star comes back because I think it got kind of killed a little bit before its time. I think it was still good. I agree. You can do anything with it. You can build a Feel No Pain crazy Death Star of bikes. You can do Battle Company spam with scouting and hit and run. Yep. You could do it's like so versatile and so good. You can do big armies, small ones. It's just fantastic. I agree. So on to my number two. My number two is Eldar, and that's because they're just not what they were. And I don't even know if they were ever, like, don't get me wrong, like the top three books, they could be any order. It's irrelevant, maybe even top four. But I just find that the Eldar they were kind of over. I feel like they're a little bit overhyped, as in like they were undefeatable and they were crazy. Like people would literally say that there's no way you could ever lose with an Eldar army. And I think that kind of blew it out of proportion on the internet. They're definitely fantastic. They got all the tools in the world. They got the spam, but they do have counter matches. There's a lot of anti-Eldar play. There's a lot of anti-Eldar formations. There's like demons are very good at dealing with Eldar. And depending on who goes first and whether or not you're allowed skulls or not, Battle Company can deal with them really well. Eldar struggle with some Death Star play as well. So, I feel like they have just a lot more counters than what I put as number one. So, Scary, you're number one.
So, my number one is War Convocation. And the reason is, number one player on the ITC, War Convocation. Well, that's one of the main reasons, but you're using a crazy amount of free points, and not every single AdMech army is the same. I love the fact that even with how bland AdMech is, there's still flavor and versatility in the way that an AdMech player can play their army. You can play sit back and shoot. You can play get into combat with the Dragoons. You can play using like your infiltrators and things like that, combined with the Psalms, which are like psychic powers on steroids because they don't require any rolling or anything at all to just make it happen, with the rerolls to shooting like Battle Company, but the resiliency of Necrons, access to Knights. I feel that AdMech has a lot of the tools to play at a high competitive level and just crunch everybody.
No, I totally agree. I only put them so far down because I feel like they're hard to play. Like I didn't say that before. I feel like I've played a lot of AdMech players, and there is an immense difference between the good ones and the bad ones, and it's like the learning curve is a cliff that you drop off of. So
yeah,
but you're 100% right to put them first. Logan?
Demons.
Sick.
They have an answer to absolutely everything. I think over the past two editions, they are far and away the most winning army of any book. They have been consistently amazing. They have answers to everything. The list design possibilities are nearly endless with these guys, and you can pump out viable tournament winning lists in many different forms. For a lot of these other armies, for a large part anyway, you're looking at one or two lists that are really the ones that are viable to do incredibly well at large events. For demons, we've seen tons of different variations. We're going to see even more now, I think, with Magnus in the mix and the new whatever it is, the new Demon Prince
he's not
one.
a demon.
He is a demon though.
But he's not a
He's
demon.
Chaos Space Marines, but
This is factions, bro. This is factions.
Factions. Fair enough. Anyway, a demons list that also happens to have him. I think the possibilities of these guys are endless. We've seen a huge amount of variety, and short of an all eggs in one basket sort of approach that backfires. You can have an army that's damn near invincible with it. And you can have a guy who is so drunk that his dick is hanging out in front of 300 people winning tournaments with this army. And I think that says something about it.
Well, that last part I don't know about, man.
That's Nick Nanavati. That did happen.
I've never seen that kind of behavior. But okay, yeah. So as we said earlier, top 5, even top 6 maybe could be interchangeable. The thing about this edition is the reason we had to expand our list to 10 from 5 is that top 5 just doesn't really show the feelings, right? Because there is 5 factions that are fantastic or more.
Yeah.
So my number 1 is Tau.
Okay.
And this could be because of my misconceptions. I just feel that like when you're building a list, the number 1 army to plan for is Tau because they're like a spoiler. They're the other thing too about Tau is that they can sit in a corner and shoot. So when you hit a scenario that's a bit wonky, when you hit a player that's a bit wonky, you have a go-to strategy that works for your army. Whereas I think like some lists like Demons or Eldar, when you hit a wonky scenario that you've never done before, you either have to commit or not commit, and it could just blow up in your face in 2 turns. The other thing too is just it's just the Riptide wings, man, and the fact that the Riptides are everywhere. And there's a reason you see 10 people out of a 16-man event with 3 Riptides in their army, right?
Yeah, it's getting a little silly.
It is. It was really tough between them and Eldar for me in the top. I wouldn't go as far. I don't know. I just felt that like they can do like with the Storm Surges, they can fight. And I remember Reese and Frankie were totally talking about when Tau came out how unstoppable they were, and we didn't really see that as much as it was hyped up to be. But I definitely felt it when I played. Like Dan will say when he plays with his Tau, he's never even felt like he was ever going to lose. I could be misquoting him a bit there, but he said some things like when he played his Tau, he never felt that many issues, or he was never really that scared. Look at Ricky; he just placed really highly with a pure Tau list at the prep for LVO.
Yep, and he doesn't play that often either. That's just a good army in the hands of a very good player, even if you're not on top of what's going on in the meta.
Yep.
100%. I think Tau is definitely a good choice, but I agree. A lot of these top lists, interchangeable, 100%, depending on player that plays them, really.
Yep. And as any tournament goes, even in other games, right? This isn't just a Warhammer thing. A lot of it can come down to luck of the draw, right? If you can get through a 6-round event and you don't play, the spoiler list to your army or something that just happens to counter you, you dodge that player, which does happen. It happens regularly. Then maybe you're going to see the one that's 5th place on this list taking first place in an event, or the first place has bad dice rolls and gets bumped down a fair bit. It can definitely happen.
Yeah. So Scary actually has to take off because he's got a game battle report. So why don't you plug your YouTube channel before you go?
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. You can always check me out on Twitter @Scary2. You can check out the YouTube channel, Scarred Cast, or check out your YouTube channel, which is also pretty cool. I like the battle reports you've been doing. The last one, Tau versus Demons, was it? Yeah, you had to kind of re-rack it and do it again. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Is that the one where I failed the Grim turn 1, right?
No, this is the one I played against Dave, I think. He got tabled on turn 1. So we just re-racked and played the game out.
Thanks a lot. Make sure all Canadian players check out the Barry Bash. Please check the link down below. Sign up if you'd like a spot. 3 rounds turn 1, 2 games day 2, so there's plenty of time to drive home if you want to do the drive. 1,850 points ITC. So end of February, put that on your calendars and go to the Best Coast Pairings app to sign up today, because it will fill up. Just make sure you safeguard your spot.
Excellent.
Sounds good. So
we'll see you there.
See you later, man.
Well, guys, and have a fantastic evening.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so I think it's kind of funny that you picked my army that I'm playing this weekend at your tournament, and I picked your army that you're playing at the tournament this weekend.
I guess we know we're going to see top table, right?
And Scary picked Will's army, and so it's funny that the 2 armies that I am most worried about this weekend were all at least first on one of our lists.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fantastic. It's going to be a good tournament this weekend for sure, though.
I don't know. It's just like the reason is because I looked at when we're setting up the 4-man team tournaments at Canhammer Team. Part of me is like every army should have a Tau player.
I'm starting to think that it's just Tau deals so well against so many lists that you basically have to have it, right?
That's the point. Is like if you had a choice, because if you have a choice between Eldar and Tau on your 4th spot, and the rest of them are taken for whatever reason, because I think they both belong on every team.
Mm-hmm.
But which one would you pick? I would pick Tau personally.
Between Tau and Eldar?
Yeah, as your fourth.
It's my fourth. For team events, I would probably go Tau. Yeah. And the reason for that is for the one or two bad matchups, like the one really bad matchup, you can pretty reliably dodge.
Army, and that's the Eldar. Which would you say Eldar is the worst matchup for Tau?
I would say that a well-piloted Death Star is the worst matchup for Tau still.
Okay, fair enough. That's true.
Either that or like a super heavy psychic list. So your Exalted Flamer Star actually is a good example. I really worry about playing against that list because it just restricts my mobility so much, and anything that unit touches will just melt, right? So I really have to...
get ready.
Yeah, if you get that. But I mean, even past that, it's such a big unit that you can bog stuff down, and it's not going to die unless I get lucky on stomps, right? And that's... it just lets you have an immense amount of board control, and if I don't get that turn 6 or turn 7 where I can just pick away at it over and over again, it's going to be, I think, pretty hard to pull out a win, especially if you do the horror bit, because it's so many models. I mean, I'll get a ton of kill points, but it's going to be tough to deal with because it's a really big speed bump to worry about.
That's funny. I thought for sure you were going to put Eldar first.
No, top 3, but like I said, the top 3 for this is, or really anything in the top 5 is totally interchangeable. All of these definitely have the potential to win big events.
We could even go back to 6 or 7. Like
maybe not 7 on my list. It's Chaos Space Marines, but
not 7 on your list. Like, I'm sure, like, if there was a new guy getting into the game right now, in the olden days they'd be like, maybe like 6th edition, they'd be like, well, I want to win. What faction should I play?
Eldar.
And you'd be like Demons or Eldar.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another one in there. Maybe like Taudar or something. 6, you could do Taudar for sure.
Yeah.
But like now it's like, well, there's like the new guys that ask me, they say I want to play this. I'm actually like, yeah, go ahead. Like, there's like at least a solid amount of books to choose from now. Like,
absolutely.
I want to win. I want to play Imperial Knights. Yeah, go. Like, you're gonna do well with those. Yeah. So cool. So we actually have a Pimp My List. We're gonna do Evan's LVO Tau list.
Yeah.
So because we have a Tau player.
Yeah, so Evan actually got in touch with me earlier today. I was asking for some feedback, so I figured we'd sort of crowdsource this, have a discussion. And
we should say that we have run out of 40K lists. If you would like to email that in, canhammer.podcast@gmail.com.
There you go. So
AOS one's coming. Sorry.
Excellent. Evan's Tau list. He has a Riptide wing with 3 Riptides with heavy burst cannons, SMS, and early warning override, so interceptor. He has an optimized stealth cadre with a unit of 2 ghost keels with cyclic ion rakers, burst cannons, 1 target lock, and interceptor on both.
What do the cyclic ions do again?
Cyclic ion raker is, I want to say, 6 shots, strength 7, AP 4, or it can be a large blast, strength 8, AP 4.
Okay.
2 units of stealth suits, all with burst cannons, and then a Firebase support cadre with a Riptide who has Ion, SMS, Earth Cast, which lets him reroll 1s and reroll his Nova Charge, and Early Warning Override, and 2 units of 3 broadsides with high yield missile pods, SMS, 1 interceptor, and a single shield drone. So, where would you start with this? Because I have a couple opinions on this that I've put together.
So part of me doesn't understand the Firebase support cadre, what role that fills in. I do still like, don't get me wrong, I still really like broadsides. I think for their point cost, because you get, I think it's, I could be it's been a while since I've really kind of thought about buying or building a Tau army, so I'm doing a lot of this from like more of a playing against Tau. Mm-hmm. But I found that like the broadsides did a lot of board control for the Tau army. It's a lot of shots. They sit on an objective. You can put an ethereal in them, which helps the rest of the army with leadership issues, especially when you're fighting a lot of the, psychic screams or anything that debuffs leadership. You want to have that up there. So I do kind of get that. I just don't feel. To me, the broadsides seem like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they flow in there. So. Because part of me is leaning towards, like, if you're going ghost keels, I would like to see more Riptides to make up for the ghost keels almost. I know that ghost keels are effective and they do a lot of work, but I feel like if you're going to take ghost keels, you want more Riptides. But if you're going more Riptides, then you'll go broadsides. So part of me is like, you don't want broadsides and ghost kills, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Interesting. Okay.
Does that make sense? Like that's what I looked at. I was like, I don't want those two things together.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there are a couple places where it works, like a retaliation cadre with a bunch of broadsides and ghost keels. But then, yeah, again, you're lower on the Riptide side of things. The biggest thing that was missing from this list for me is marker lights. And for a lot of lists you see that are Riptide Wing and Optimized Stealth Cadre, you don't see them, or you see a drone net. It's either all or nothing. So both Riptide Wing and Optimized Stealth Cadre can work without marker lights, but you need to be able to take advantage of that situation. So if you're running a Riptide Wing, you want a unit of 3 Riptides, so that they're getting +1 ballistic skill from fire team and +1 ballistic skill from shooting at something else the formation shot at. So you're going to be hitting on 2s with them, which is huge. And with the Optimized Stealth Cadre, likewise, you're getting +1 ballistic skill from Wall of Mirrors, but you also want that +1 from fire team with that 3rd ghost keel. Plus, that gives you the 3rd use of the countermeasures, hollow photon countermeasures, which is really, really good, especially against, especially in the Tau Mirror match, because you're shutting down a Storm Surge from shooting at it for 3 turns, which is enormous, and stopping it from shooting at everything else as well. Or you're shutting down, that unit of 3 Riptides, you're shutting down a Warp Hunter or a unit of Warp Hunters, a Wraith Knight, blah, blah, blah. List goes on.
Yeah, I agree. The only change that I was going to say was drop the Firebase, make it a CAD. That way you have some OBSEC in the list.
Yep.
And you could take what you do, and I think Tristan does as well, take the drone commander.
Yep.
So you can explain that in a second. Or you could even just take a drone unit as a fast attack, but they're not as good as the drone. Well, you would need one of them and a drone commander, but they're not as good. You could also do just deep striking the crisis suits that are OBSEC. That could be a big help. I just find it's like there's not enough OBSEC scoring or scoring of any kind.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is part of it as well. The advice I gave Evan earlier, and I think I would stick with it, is if the plan is to really base this around the Riptide Wing and the Optimized Stealth Cadre, I think they either need to be fleshed out to the full size. So, like there's one list that's been doing super well. It did really well at BAO. And just the 5 Riptide Wing in general is doing incredibly well, sort of worldwide. Is to take that, so get a unit of 3 Riptides in there, and flesh out the Optimized Stealth Cadre to have a 3rd Ghost Keel, or keep the Optimized Stealth Cadre as it is, flesh out the Riptide Wing, and drop the Firebase Support Cadre, change it over to a combined arms attachment with the Iridium Armor Drone Commander, take like 2 or more Crisis Suits, take a unit of 4 drones, and maybe toss in some Tetras or something, or an armored container cache, because that synergizes super duper well with your Riptides that are shooting everything on 2s. So you basically get twin length BS5 Riptides.
It's that 4th Riptide that he would be better in the Riptide Wing, right?
Yes, because you get Hailfire, right? So he's already got
Hailfire. You get to reroll your Nova Charge.
He gets that from Earthcast. So the Earthcast on the one outside of this is a really, really good choice. But yeah, it would still be better within the formation. Yeah.
How many points is Earthcast?
30-ish.
Yeah, so you're basically paying, so you could just move that guy locations, save 30 points, use the 30 points to buy 2 crisis suits.
Yeah, I mean you have to put it in the unit of two Riptides, but yeah. Anyway, that would be my advice on it. The other alternative is you go for like a retaliation cadre, you drop one of the other 2 formations. And you go, like if you really want to have broadsides in your list, the Retail Cadre is great for it because you get relentless deep striking crisis suits. Relentless deep striking broadsides and crisis suits and other things. You can still get a unit of Riptides in there. You get some of your marker light support in there too. You can get, and you can still take an auxiliary if you want to take the Riptide Wing or the Optimized Stealth Cadre. They both plug and play pretty well.
Yeah, so hopefully that kind of helps. It's the thing about Tau is I think a lot of it's being figured out now. So everything that we're saying puts you more towards that standard internet archetype, but that's the way it is now, right?
Yep.
Cool. So I guess we're gonna move on to hopefully. Sorry about that. If you have any more questions, feel free to email us, man. We'll totally help you out some more. Or if we're terrible advice and you end up bringing that list and winning LVO. Man, you can just throw it in our face. That'd be really cool. So we're gonna move on to question and answer. So what's the first one we got?
So the first one is from I Have Rabies 911. So I'm thinking of getting into Age of Sigmar because I'm going to buy a lot of Nurgle Demons to summon for my Word Bearers, and I thought, why not? And I'm kind of overwhelmed with all the different synergies and models. I like Warriors of Chaos, Nurgle Demons, and Rotbringers. Do you guys have any tips or models for me to look out for? I'd totally appreciate it.
So that's kind of an easy one. So if you're summoning Nurgle Demons with your Word Bearers in 40k, there's only going to be 2 units that you're going to concentrate on. Plague Bearers, and what's the other one, Logan?
Plague Drones.
Plague Drones. And so luckily for you, those 2 things are pretty good in AOS. The 2 borderline fantastic. The formation that I like the best is the Taliban. It gives you a lot of sick bonuses. You can mix and match a lot of units. You do need a Great Unclean one, but he's fantastic because he heals 2d3 wounds per turn. So that's like, he's really hard to take out. If your opponent wants to kill him, he's got to shoot him like crazy in one round and really take a lot of wounds off. Plague Bearers, you generally want 3 units, numbering anywhere from 20 to 30. You can take maybe a 10-man unit for the backfield and 2 bigger units to push up on objectives. Because they are slow, you need the model count in those units. So when they have to move out onto an objective, they have to go turn 1 because they're too slow to sit back. So you need the extra models because they're going to be engaged early. They're going to get shot early. But mind you, they're like -2 to hit. But some shooting isn't really too worried about that. Some things auto hit if you're a bigger unit or whatnot. But you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Plague Drones are fantastic. If you want to do more of a mixed list, which is with the sound of it, like generally people go pure Nurgle Demons, take the Taliban, that's pretty much your army. You could do a lot of weird, cool things, like Epidemius is borderline good in Age of Sigmar. He's like Nurgle stuff's not the killiest, so a lot of his buffs go off too late in the game to matter. One of the cool combos that I like is you can take the Skaven Plague Catapults. They're Nurgle, and they can start generating the tally early in the game. Other than that, feel free to mix stuff, but if you start off with a small force, 1,000 points of Plague Bearers, Plague Drones, Great Unclean Ones, I think a must in Age of Sigmar, and then 2 Heralds on foot, that's a really good start, and then you can flush out your toys, your Skaven, your other stuff later.
That's awesome.
Was that too long of a
No,
answer?
That's great, and it was really useful to me as well, because I have a bunch of Nurgle Demons, and I've been wanting to play some AOS, ideally with slightly lower model count than my Undead would be, so I may have to give this a shot at some point.
Well, it's a super popular army because Nurgle's very popular in 40k, and actually last edition Nurgle was one of the better demon choices for like cores and things like that. So lots of people have tons of Nurgle stuff. Mm-hmm. The Plague Drones are great. 6-man unit. I wouldn't go too much bigger than 6. 3 is nice too, but it is small, and you do want one heavy hitting FU unit in your army. And that's usually them, and then your Plague Bearers are more for objective play, and your Heralds keep them going. But yeah, just start small with Age of Sigmar, man. Like if that's it.
Very cool. All right, our next question here from the Trader Legion books. So we're going to do this actually on another show, but we'll talk about it quickly. What formations work the best with what legion?
See, I was trying to find the list of the formations. That's why I was kind of like, when I was answering that last question, that's what I wanted to find that. So if you name off a few of the formations, I can tell you which one I think they're better on. I can't find the list right now. I'm looking.
So I am not prepared for this question. I'll say this. So this is something that came in during the show.
So we'll do a quick, brief summary.
Yeah.
And then we are going to cover this book because we are heavy into. There they are. Okay, so to do a few of them, the best ones are generally like Maelstrom of Gore, Khorne Berserkers, obviously.
Yeah.
Lost in the Damned, obviously either Alpha Legion or what's the Word Bearers. Where's the one I'm looking for? The
what's in it?
Sorry about that. Not good. Raptor Talon. Sorry, Raptor Talon is really good for the Black Legion because they get to come in turn 1 with their reserves. So anything that deep strikes in assaults and comes in turn 1 is fantastic.
Can it assault the turn it comes in?
Isn't that the rule in the Raptor Talon?
Might be.
Okay, yeah, they can charge on the turn they arrive from Deep Strike Reserve.
It's not awful.
I think it's pretty good.
Still.
And then the Terminator Annihilation Force is also Black Legion because the same thing. They can deep strike in turn 1 and shoot out of order, which is pretty good. And I think that's about it for them. But we'll just do an episode on it later.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll put that question aside. But definitely anything that deep strikes, heavy or spammy, Black Legion. Anything with lots of cultists, I'm leaning towards Alpha Legion for sure because the infiltrate is huge.
Yeah.
And then that's about it, really.
Yeah, a lot of the other formations just have either really bizarre attacks that makes no sense for the lists, like the Mauler Fiend Warpsmith one makes absolutely no sense. The Obliterator...
Cabal's the big one.
Cabal is fantastic, but it's Black Legion only, right?
It is Black Legion.
So I don't think we're going to see that too much in the CSM list necessarily, at least not part of the detachment, right? You can still take it as a second formation and join the units, but... yeah, we'll talk about it more when we cover it. It'll probably be sort of early next year. Just don't want to dig too much into that over the holidays. But there's a lot of cool stuff. But unfortunately, I mean, a lot of the formations have the same problems that were there when they came out in like Trader's Bane. That they're just not good. Some of the Legion buffs make them better, but I think honestly the real winners are, like I said, the Lost and the Damned is great, especially with Alpha Legion. And the Warband is just excellent, especially in the Nurgle one. And the Maelstrom of Gore works super well with the World Eaters because they get their bonus movement and they get that 2d6 move.
So fast.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think the Black Legion made out like the champions in this book because they were the best one to start with, and then they just got better. You're basically saving 5 points per dude, so they're the best one. Cool. So next one, better Warcon, double knights versus 1 unit of 5 chicken walkers versus demon summoning. So if I'm doing Warcon, personally, I don't like the double knights. The reason is you get nothing else. You're basically just taking a second knight. And so to me, every time I've played against Warcon with the double knight, it's a much easier game. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Mind you, Denis, he did quite well with his double knight in Montreal, but it's just a big, like, you're losing a lot of versatility. I like more to mix in some other stuff, maybe flesh out some units. Now, as far as the 5 chicken walkers, I don't know if I like them either. 5 of them.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the chicken walkers. They're just too fragile.
One, oh, yeah, and then the last one, demon summoning, I'm actually not a fan of that either because Warcon doesn't have trouble scoring. They have lots of units. They have mobility. What does summoning add? You don't have... It's not like you have a base of warp charge that you could like need more horrors, I guess, to fill out. Do you need a lot of chaff with that unit? Because one thing too with Warcon is if they have a lot of like stuff that's in your grill about to charge you, you have that one canonical or whatever that can just does d6 or does a bunch of strength 4 hits. I forget the exact wording on it. It does a ton of hits on anybody that charges you. So I'm like, you don't really need to bubble with demons too much, and you have the one Night Titan that'll kind of protect your backfield if people get too close.
Right. So what the demon summoning brings though is you can be hyper aggressive with the entire list, and you just have the librarians and a small unit, maybe with the rangers or something, parked at the back, and you're just summoning tons of shit, and it can't be killed because the rest of the army has to focus on the stuff that's moving up and being so aggressive, while sitting there with shrouding or with twin-linked shots, or is charging you with weapon skill 7 or some crazy stuff like that. It has done very well. It's been tough for a lot of people to deal with. I do think it exemplifies some of the bad matches, though. Right, like against Tau, I think I can see why you had Tau as number 1. Against Tau, I think it's a big liability because you're already in a tough match and you're just adding more kill points for it.
And I don't know. I found that like when you add in like the Inquisitor with the grenades, it adds that little versatility against the Death Star, and you add in the Calexis. Now you got some anti-psyker, and it just kind of like, I think you can add in a lot of little tools to that list just to make it a lot better. Yep. Like you could add in, if you want to, you could add in containers or a void shield generator, and like some of those units don't want to be moving forward anyway because like your your warlord there, when he goes to ground, he gets like a 2-up invol.
Yeah.
So
I do think the Calexis is really probably the best fit in terms of versatility for this. On top of it,
yeah.
like a bunker Calexis, and then take whatever for past that. Dan's list worked out super well. It's got answers to just about everything, right? And that was with the Inquisition for the guy with the psychotrope grenades, sitting in with, I think was usually with the infiltrators, or I think it's usually the infiltrators.
Well, you can put them in with whoever you want, depending on the matchup. And so a bunker, Calexis, Inquisitor is the best.
Gives you the board control.
The Inquisitor's still good.
Yeah, even without the skulls, it's still useful, right?
Well, and he can give a unit in your army scout that maybe wouldn't normally have it, and then he can join the infiltrators, and it gives you a lot more versatility with these little toys. I just found a lot of the demon spamming lists, they're nice, but they always fall apart in a couple matchups. Yeah. And demon summoning's fickle. You could lose all your librarians like that.
Well, the other part of it is with that setup, you're also giving a psychic battery to the list. So now after your stealth shrouded is worn off, you've probably still got shrouding you can cast in the middle of your army, or you've got invis that you can toss on the knight as it runs forward. So it gives you some versatility. Like there's a couple different ways to play with it with the Lib Conclave rather than just demon summoning, but it gives you that option in matchups where it's viable.
Yeah, I could see taking like a Lib Conclave. Now you mentioned like maybe on foot to keep the points cost down. And can you fit them in a bunker with an Inquisitor in like a unit of infiltrators? Maybe like we'll have to see. I'm not 100% sold on it. But
as Dan's pointed out in chat, it gives you phase form, which is really, really good with that list. Ignores line of sight.
Yes. Yeah.
Or ignores cover. Yeah. Or both in ETC.
Next one. Now that skulls aren't a thing, how much will that change the meta? Huge. Yeah. So actually, like,
White Scars Gladius got way better. Death Stars got way better.
My Demon Spam list got better because I was really frustrated with not being able to scout my Corn Hounds in like 3 out of 4 matchups.
Yep.
I found that super frustrating.
The losing the skulls, I think, is... So I got kind of lucky on this because I just started putting Kroot back in my list after, I don't know, a couple months ago maybe. And they just got way better as a result because now I have to have something infiltrating to stop giant scouting Death Star or multiple scouting units coming at me. But the flip side of that is, now it's a huge gamble too, because if I'm playing against White Scars Gladius, I'm rolling off to deploy for infiltrate against scouts if they're taking whatever 10th company.
No, against other infiltrating, yeah.
Well, no, against the scout units.
Models, not scouting
not
units,
scout. So they can still get that huge advantage and still very likely be able to move up half the board if they deploy their scouts well. So
I agree.
I think this is a really good meta change.
Yeah, it's good for the game.
Yeah, I think
it was one of those things. It was like 35 points that like I remember we're writing Tau lists, and I'd be like, yeah, just throw in, that's like a one, like you just take that in a Tau list.
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
And so like I'd get kind of worried against Tau sometimes, and then the answer would be like, well, I could scout, but outflanking's not the same as just being up there that turn earlier, right?
Yep.
So. Anything else?
Yeah. So this one I tossed in just because it's funny. What is the best thing to put in a Mastodon? This is from Wii.
I honestly don't know. This is just pure speculation.
What would your answer be for speculation?
I think like a Wolfenstar hits the hardest out of anything in the game, and you want something that comes out of that and kills something and gets the hell into something else, right?
Yeah.
Like what's fragile? So that's the thing. What's slow, fragile, hits like a ton of bricks that needs a Mastodon?
Yeah, Wolfen is really the only answer. I don't like the Mastodon. It's like 600 points, and it's good. It's durable. It's great, but like 4D missiles still destroys it. Right? You toss that thing on the table, unless it's invisible. Even if you bump it up to AV-15, it's getting destroyed in one turn. Like. Dramatically so. It's just not viable to have out there. Maybe if you have shrouding on it, but the problem is if you have that, I'm just going to kill your librarians that are out in the open because they're not in the vehicle to be protected.
You just put Azrael in it, gets a 4-up invul.
Yeah, I think you have to do like the Wolf and Death Star with that setup. I think it's
Azrael,
really with Azrael. Yeah, I think it's the only viable way to run the Mastodon.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else?
That is everything we've got.
Cool. So with that, thanks guys for listening. We'll thank Scurry again, even though he left a little bit earlier. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. We did have a little bit of issue with Scurry's audio, which will be corrected next time. That was due to him losing his headphones, but that's fine. So with that, for feedback, you can email us, canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. You can go to oneplusarmor.com for more information on our YouTube page and things like that. You can go to canhammer.com for more information on the Canhammer tournaments, as well as the podcast. And you can support us on Patreon.
Patreon.com/OnePlusArmor. We really appreciate anything you want to throw our way if you like our content. All of the money goes straight into the YouTube channel and the production stuff. There's some cool perks. We got t-shirts, we got preferred tournament entry, we got dice. So check it out. Patreon.com/OnePlusArmor.
Cool. With that, have a good one.